If you're a developer and you come across a coding question that needs to be answered, well, Stack Overflow is usually one of the first places that you would visit. You post a question and other developers will answer with potential solutions. And for a while, it was good. Everyone loved it, and Stack Overflow has always been the go-to place for developers with questions. But recent events have cast a shadow over Stack Overflow, transforming what was a beloved corner of the internet into a site facing growing discontent from its own core users. Stack Overflow is a question and answer site designed specifically for programmers, developers, and software engineers. It was founded in 2008 by Jeff Atwood and Joel Spolsky. And at the time, Stack Overflow was definitely one of the more accessible alternatives to earlier question and answer sites. The platform allows any user to post questions and answers on various programming topics, and members can vote on the content similar to Reddit and edit the content like you would do so for a wiki. If you're active, you will actually earn reputation points and badges for your contributions, adding this gamification element to the site. Basically, it just makes people want to post. At its core, Stack Overflow really did thrive on the collective knowledge of its users, the developers. Now, this is quite important to remember. Stack Overflow does not want to be a general question and answer website where you can have thousands of the same questions being asked by different users. They want to actually be a reference site where you find questions with high quality answers. Here's an example. In Python, a common question would be, how do I import an Excel file in Python? And in a normal Q&A site like Reddit or Quora, it will be answered by a user. A while later, if someone asks the same question again, someone will provide an answer. However, if you are a user and you are answering these questions a lot, by the 10th time that someone asks the same exact question, you are probably not going to give a very good answer. So what Stack Overflow wants here is that they want unique questions with quality answers. So in their model, someone asks, how do I import an Excel file into Python? And someone responds. And maybe someone else adds to that answer by responding as well. And then maybe a few days later, if another user asks the same exact question, well, on Stack Overflow, that question would be closed and marked as a duplicate. The actual person who asked the new question will be redirected to the original question that has really great detailed and quality answers. So Stack Overflow definitely wanted quality over quantity, because when you search for something that you need, you will just have one thread with some really great quality answers, instead of paging through a bunch of similar questions looking for a good enough answer. And this method actually worked well, mostly. The site was really growing since it started in 2008. And for the next few years, into the 2010s, Stack Overflow did continue to grow and prosper until it didn't. Now, if you didn't know, currently, Stack Overflow has actually been getting a lot of criticism with their new AI partnership that was announced a few weeks ago. And before we jump to the conclusion, oh, it's just AI, that's why their users are hating them at the moment, there were actually a few issues with Stack Overflow before AI. There was a lot of criticism from about 2014 onwards, and it started with users on the platform not being very nice. So here's an example. As I was writing my script for this video, I went to Stack Overflow and looked at new questions with responses. This was the first post I came across. The question was titled, how can I write a function that takes a date string in the format of that and returns the day of the week for that date? And this user who posted this question, they seem quite new. The user seems to give a bit more details to the question and try to create a solution. One person gives a good response as a comment. It's polite. This person has a reputation of 10,000 points. So not a huge reputation in the context of Stack Overflow, but an okay average reputation. Then there's this person who says, we're not here to do homework for you. What is the specific part that you're having trouble with? And the person who actually wrote this comment, well, they have about 134,000 reputation points. Been on Stack Overflow for 15 years, this member is probably an experienced developer. And look, maybe the person who actually asked the question didn't really stick to the rules or whatever, but any Python developer would actually be able to give you a solid answer with what the OP has originally provided. It's not a very hard question to answer. The person who posted this comment, he was being a bit mean. Now, in the grand scheme of things, is this a huge issue? No. But I can see for a new user, especially if you are learning to code, it just gives you a bad impression. Here's another new question that was posted on Stack Overflow. And again, I literally did not even have to hunt for this. This was the second question that I saw. Again, the poster here asks a Python-related question, gave some example of what they're looking for in the solutions. And here's one comment. I'd also like to know why you need to do this in the first place. Again, if we look at the poster who replied with this comment, huge reputation, also another very experienced developer. So it isn't like new users are also commenting the answers and you can say, oh, maybe it is a troll. So if you look at the person who commented and you go into the profile, I wanted to see if this person is just always a bit mean, but I couldn't. You actually can't see that history. So when you comment on a post on Stack Overflow, it's not an answer, it is a comment. And you can't go onto a user's profile on Stack Overflow and see their past comments. You can only see their past questions and their past answers, which makes sense why the comments are always a bit more rude, a bit more impolite, because you can't really track what comments a person actually makes. And as I said, the developers who commented, what they did wasn't really that bad and not really a huge deal. They're not bad people. It always happens on the internet. People can be rude, so what? But the problem is for Stack Overflow, that is probably a major detractor for new users or users who just want to ask questions. And there are many issues here. The first issue is that if nobody likes asking new questions, how would Stack Overflow grow and adapt to new technology? And the second issue is that most of Stack Overflow's questions are from newer users who haven't been on the platform for too long. You don't want to chase away new users because then how would your platform actually grow? So the problem with having one unique question and many answers is that someone will ask a question and the moderator will close it and mark it as duplicated, which also has its own problems. Now, this post, which was 6 years ago, was on the subreddit called Programming Humor, and it was titled Stack Overflow in a Nutshell. And the post complained about people not answering the questions, but more critiquing it. There were a lot of comments in general about the general gripes of the platform. This user, I'm not reading that name, but Fish Lover also explained their frustrations and said, don't dare ask a question because you'll be linked to some outdated question that is slightly related, and then you have your thread locked. And they are right there. So here's an example. I Googled a common Python error, and I click on the first link on Google, which is a Stack Overflow question with the same error. This question was posted 13 years ago, 427 upvotes, popular question. And if I scroll to the actual first answer, this is the first answer. It was posted in 2011, 13 years ago. Next answer posted in 2011. The next answer posted in 2018. Now, you can imagine if you're looking for a modern solution, or if you know that the library you have used has changed a lot, you won't be very confident in these answers. You'll basically have to try one by one and hope that it's right, which, again, can also detract users. Things started to go downhill when their main user base actually expressed dissatisfaction with the platform. And from 2019, there seemed to be a few moderators resigning from Stack Overflow. And the reasons given was something to note. This was a post on the Meta Stack Overflow forums. So if you did not know, meta.stackoverflow.com is a website or forum if you have any complaints about the OG Stack Overflow platform, can go to the Meta platform and complain or discuss. That's why it's there. You can't post any complaints on the actual Stack Overflow site, because that's only for developer question and answers. So this was actually posted on the Meta Stack Overflow forums from an actual moderator. It said, I'm resigning as a Stack Overflow community elected moderator. The post continued, Stack Overflow Inc. has forgotten how to lead, how to persuade, and how to talk with the community. This has been a slow decline since 2014, and we are now at the point where the company's actions show they no longer want to build a relationship with the community they have. Okay, so that's just one moderator complaining. Are there others? In 2021, we also have another moderator resigning, and this mod said, "I didn't make this decision lightly, frivolously, or suddenly. A persistent pattern of corporate missteps and a monumentally deplorable moderator dismissal has compelled me to re-evaluate my relationship with Stack Exchange." So the actual moderator dismissal they were talking about in this post here was a moderator called Monica. And in 2019, there were some policy changes. Monica actually questioned it, and then she was dismissed, which a lot of users at the time were upset about. And if you browse the top posts in this Meta forum, you'll actually see that there were other moderators resigning. Here's another one. And all of these resignations were power users. They were people who have contributed their time and energy just to help others. And all of them cited Stack Overflow, the corporation, the management, as being an issue, not their jobs, not their day-to-day activities, which eventually leads us to the straw that broke the camel's back. Or maybe not a straw. I think it was more like a pile of bricks. So we do know that things were not perfect on Stack Overflow before AI could even enter the picture. Well, now that AI is in the picture, it looks like it's made things worse. So when AI was originally introduced, like ChatGPT, a lot of people began to use it to solve their developer-related problems, which does make sense. All you had to do was go to ChatGPT or any AI platform, ask a question, and it answers it. Unlike Stack Overflow, you don't have to search for an answer. AI also seems to be a lot more polite, regardless of how stupid a question is. It will just give you an answer. And AI probably also won't close your question because, another person asked a question. So a lot of pros, and obviously I'm just joking here, but in essence, there were a lot of advantages when it comes to AI. And I think naturally the Stack Overflow traffic just declined. There is a blog post from a developer called Ian, and this is interesting because he has a decent amount of reputation or points on Stack Overflow. And one of the benefits of this is that if you do reach a specific level when it comes to reputation, Stack Overflow actually gives you access to site analytics. And this is what he has found. This plot actually shows the website traffic since July 2022. And we see it increasing for a bit here, which is obviously quite good for Stack Overflow. There is a drop in November 2022, and November 2022 is actually when ChatGPT was launched. And basically since then, this decline continues to happen. This trend also does corroborate with the number of votes and posts. And interestingly, this has all already been on a decline for a while, but since November 2022, the decline has just been a bit more drastic. And with this, Stack Overflow has lost around 35% of its traffic, which is substantial. But during this time, a lot of developers also maintained that at least Stack Overflow was trustworthy, because a good answer is highlighted by users voting on it or commenting on it. Whereas with AI, you can't really tell if the solution it gives you is correct, because AI is always so confident with its responses, even if the solution may be wrong or AI is just hallucinating a solution. But regardless of that, the general public was just not visiting Stack Overflow as much as they used to. So to combat this, in 2023, Stack Overflow actually announced that they were introducing a new suite of new AI-powered features developed by Stack Overflow themselves just to enhance the experience on the platform. And they called it Overflow AI. And what this tool was supposed to do is that it would enable users to ask questions in a very natural conversational way. And the Overflow AI would respond with the answers to their questions based on previous answers from Stack Overflow. But the idea here was that this was all controlled within the Stack Overflow environment. Now, they did note that the responses generated from the AI that would draw on Stack Overflow's databases of answers, those responses from the AI would be cited and referenced back to the original human authors. They did note that on their blog post when they announced Overflow AI. They didn't really go into too much detail on how that would be done, because that is quite a relatively hard task to do, but they did definitely note that. But since that was announced in 2023, it doesn't look like Overflow AI actually reached that popularity that Stack Overflow hoped for, and traffic and website visits still dropped. So Stack Overflow was at a roadblock. It was on the decline. So on the 6th of May 2024, Stack Overflow made an announcement. The announcement said that OpenAI is partnering with Stack Overflow in order to enhance its AI models for any programming tasks. And the collaboration actually aims to improve the performance of OpenAI's models, like those used in ChatGPT, especially in answering your programming questions. Stack Overflow, in turn, will gain new AI features developed with OpenAI's expertise. They did state that the first new set of integrations and capabilities between Stack Overflow and OpenAI will be available within the first half of 2024, so by June 2024. And you can just imagine the backlash from the Stack Overflow community, from their very own users. Because essentially what Stack Overflow is saying is that they are going to take all of the answers that users have put time and effort to create and give them to OpenAI. So Stack Overflow actually posted a thread on their Meta platform announcing the partnership, and many users had issues. This thread had a lot of negative feedback. Some users were picking on specific processes. This poster had an issue with attribution, i.e. essentially making sure that credit is given to people who come up with the original answers. They said one of the major selling points of Overflow AI was attribution. Most LLMs don't provide any sort of attribution for where they're getting their information from. Directly feeding Stack Exchange content into ChatGPT or other OpenAI products sounds to me like that attribution is not going to be retained. It says attributed, but it doesn't give any details. Will it cite Stack Overflow in general, the specific post, the specific user? Will this abide by the CC by SA license that the posts are under? So just your normal content licensing. And I think a lot of the users had issues based on, I created the content, I should get the credit, which does make sense. So some users had issues with the attribution. Other users actually focused on the emotional side of this announcement. One user said, I feel violated, cheated upon, betrayed, and exploited. I believe a lot of other users feel the same. If you feel the same, upvote this. Attribution is one aspect of it, but not the only aspect. It is the entire way how the community works and how we as humans created the content on this platform to make the world a little bit better. The whole thing feels ethically wrong and emotionally damaging. Humans are meant to exploit machines and not the other way around. Exploiting us who helped make the world a little bit better in this way is a turning point. It makes the world for us worse instead of better. People already started contemplating actions against this, like purging their questions, answers, comments, and even deleting their accounts. I was contemplating deleting my account over this. I still am. Congratulations, Stack Exchange. And they were right. Users were contemplating removing their content from Stack Overflow because they would rather do that than let a company like OpenAI have it. So this announcement clearly made a lot of users upset. And to protest, a lot of users actually began to delete their answers that they've posted in the past. But there was an issue because Stack Overflow, they weren't allowing it. User Ben UI posted this on X a day after the announcement was made. Stack Overflow announced that they were partnering with OpenAI, so I tried to delete my highest rated answers. I found that Stack Overflow does not let you delete questions that have accepted answers and many upvotes because it would remove knowledge from this community. So when he couldn't delete his answer, he tried something else. So instead, I changed my highest rated answers to a protest message. Within an hour, mods had changed the questions back and suspended my account for 7 days. And a lot of users have been experiencing the same thing. On the same post of the announcement, someone posted, my answers have been read by 151,000 people on the Physics Stack Exchange site. That makes me the top 3% of users. I wrote those answers to help the community. I am not okay with my answers being used for the benefit and profit of OpenAI, a company I do not like. I was banned yesterday from PSE for deleting my answers, which were edited back to my former writing. Now, there is a bit of divide in the community. Some users are saying giving the Stack Overflow answer data to OpenAI violates the user agreement and content license. Some users are saying it actually doesn't. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't comment on whether that's right or wrong, but there is just a bigger discussion happening on whether Stack Overflow and the entire Stack Exchange umbrella can actually give that data to a third-party company. Regardless, this is just not a good look for Stack Overflow. The people commenting here are its core users, essentially the product of Stack Overflow. They are the ones spending time giving good quality answers on the platform. And there's such a high possibility that a lot of these users may just stop posting. The other thing is that if Stack Overflow is contributing to making AI better, then why would users want to use Stack Overflow then? But to be honest, I do feel for both sides. Stack Overflow does feel like it's backed into a corner. And as a business, they would want to grow. But on the other side, users aren't happy, their core users aren't happy, their most loyal users aren't happy, and they need to fix that. Is this a big deal for me personally or for developers in general? No, most developers don't hate Stack Overflow, and maybe this is just my experience, but in my own network, Stack Overflow is just a routine you go through when you come across some sort of problem. So, oh, I have an error, I don't know, let me check the documentation. Okay, so the documentation doesn't give me enough information, I'll check Stack Overflow. Okay, Stack Overflow is not giving me enough, I'll ask AI. And I think the big problem for Stack Overflow here is that they have a very small percent of their user base who is very loyal and keeping the site alive, contributing and giving out quality answers. But the average developer, if they realize Stack Overflow's not giving them the quality answers, I think it's so easy to just switch to another method that works. They don't even need to be physically boycotting or hating on Stack Overflow. I think that decline of quality, answers not being updated, lack of new questions may be the main issue. It will be interesting to see where Stack Overflow will be at in the next few months and if they can turn the situation around. I do hope they find a way to make their developers happy. You know, there's some really great developers there, grumpy, but great. And also their platform has helped a lot of people solve many issues. So I do hope that they find a solution. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.